Welcome along and welcome back to Attingham Park, and today we're going to be taking one of these fantastic machines from our fleet of beautiful blue tractors. In fact, we're going to be taking the 8340 here and heading down to the shop because we have a job to do. Well, the main job we have to do today is that we have a pile of weeds in our newly seeded fields. So both field 12B and 3 are both full of weeds at the moment. So we're going to go and grab a weeder. We're not going to be able to buy one. Unfortunately, there's not one in the used parts or the used shop. But there is one that we can afford to lease for now. We're in a fairly good position. This is the last sort of day before we start selling stuff off. So we should be able to lease this and still have enough cash to survive a couple of days. So if we look in the weeders here, this is the one I'm going to go for. Everything else is 51,000, 18,000, 40. Yeah, nothing else is there as affordable. This, though, at 9,500, we can lease for £484. It'll only cost us £95 a day. It's actually pretty good for what we're going to need. We're going to need it for the next few months anyway. So now we will we'll be able to have it kicking around the farm. Yes, we're down to £338, but we start selling things off early December. So really, there's only 2 more videos in the current year on here that we will be doing, and that is basically this one, which is going to be getting rid of the weeds and setting the pigs up for the winter, and then selling off, which is going to be mainly in December. I think beginning of December we're going to be looking at selling stuff off. We'll be keeping an eye on the prices, of course, over the next few days, making sure that whatever we are doing, we're getting the best price for our stuff. But we are very much looking to make as much as we can over the next few days. Set the farm up for the coming year. We've got 4 fields still to be planted, and they're going to be planted in the spring. Starting with, I think it's the canola in March. So we've got that ahead of us, but there's not really going to be much to do in January and February. I don't think there's any real sell-off or anything like that to do during that time. So it's going to be a case of really skipping from December back into the spring. Right, now let's get this up and unfold that. This is a 6-meter one, so this should be all right. We don't need care tires on because we're in first stage growth, which is quite useful. Now, this is the best way for us, really, with the setup we've got here, to run to be doing weeding and because we don't, on reflection, a spot sprayer is very expensive. So certainly this year, while I had kind of talked myself into doing spot spraying for this, it's not really something we need to get such an expensive piece of equipment for. We are doing all of our fertilizing by this point. We fertilize as we seed, and so we don't need to put any more fertilizer on the ground, and so we don't need a sprayer for that. And if we do the weeding at this point, as long as we get no large or medium weeds, this weeder will absolutely handle it. If we get some medium ones, we can get a hoe, which is still cheaper than getting the spraying set up. So yeah, I think the way we're looking to go very much is like this, and do the weeding on the farm instead. From the look of it, we might have a few larger weeds kicking around here. Oh wow, in fact, yeah, we've got some larger patches. So the only way I'm going to be able to get rid of those is either with a hoe, as we talked about earlier, or with a with the spot sprayer doing herbicide later in the year. It's a bit annoying because I didn't want to do the spot spraying, and we can't afford the hoe right now, and by the time we can afford a hoe, we are not going to be able to get rid of those medium weeds. They're going to be large weeds at that point. So we'll clear out all of the small weeds here, get these fields weeded as much as possible, and hopefully that will reduce the amount we lose from the amount of yield we lose from having the larger weeds. But yeah, looks like we're going to have a different strategy going into the next year and to deal with the weeds, because as much as I like this small weeder, if it's not getting rid of all the weeds, it's not going to be the most useful thing to us. It will improve our yield. We'll still get an improved yield from doing this, but we won't get the maximum yield by doing this. And at that point, it becomes which is going to cost us more to do. To get something that is going to get rid of all these weeds, and spend the money doing that, or something that is going or just leaving it and having the yield a little bit lower, and seeing what that goes. I think over the course of a year, this is probably the better way to go, to remove the larger weeds off here, or the smaller weeds off here, and the large majority of weeds off here, and just have a little bit of a dip in our yield by getting rid of these weeds. But I think if we were to go the route of getting the spot sprayer or getting the hoe, we're going to be spending a lot more money, and I don't think that's going to pay off ultimately in the extra yield that we'd get off the fields. This does seem to be doing a decent job of getting rid of most of the weeds. The medium-sized ones we know we can't get rid of and are going to cause us a problem, but you look at how clear the field is where we've been compared to how clear it is where we haven't, and it is taking a large chunk of the weeds away. We can see more clearly now, yeah, exactly what's left, and we're removing all of this stuff between here, and we're even having quite an effect on the larger areas too. So I'm quite happy with how much this is doing. It is going to still impact our yield, not being able to get rid of the medium-sized weeds, but not as much as if we didn't clear this field at all. So yeah, this is worth spending the little bit of money that we're spending to do it, and I think it's a good sort of intermediate, a good point at which we can say, right, we're going to increase our yield here without spending too much money. But at the same time, we're not going to get rid of all of them, because that would cost us too much, certainly in this current year. Going through to the next year, we'll be able to then see what's worth reinvesting in our farm. And I think that I'm actually a bit off track here. I think I can move over a little bit and retarget myself. Because that's a large patch of weeds. So yeah, I think we are. I think we're in a good position with this, and I am quite happy, despite the fact we're not managing to get the whole job done, that we're getting enough of the job done to make a difference. Turned out to be quite a nice sunny November's day here. It's perfect weather for doing this. We're not looking at any rain or anything, which is really useful. And if I look at the field that way and then look at the field that way, that is so much better having run this weeder over that half of the field. So it's yeah, it's doing a job, and it's doing it pretty well. It's not quite perfect, but yeah, I don't think, unless we got the hoe on here, it wouldn't be. So I'm happy with where we're going. I did have a thought on this might be a good thing to do if you are planning to spot spray later. So we're not going to be spot spraying, as I said. I think it's too expensive for the farm for this year. What this does do, though, is it removes a large chunk of the weeds from the field already. So you get rid of the smaller weeds with this, you're left with medium weeds, but you're left with a lot less of them. So you come and spot spray later in the year, and you use less expensive herbicide, getting rid of the remaining weeds. I.e., you're spraying less. So I think that's a good way to go. If you're looking to use the spot sprayer, don't just use the spot sprayer. Save yourself a little bit of cash. It's cost, well, as I said, £95 a day. It costs so little for this. In fact, I think it costs for this maybe one thing of herbicide, if I'm right. Hang on, let's have a look. Herbicide, 2,400. So this to buy will cost you 9,500. So 4 things of herbicide. If you save yourself 4 pallets of herbicide, this pays for itself. If you lease it to do it, it costs even less. You know, you could lease this because herbicide is a consumable. Yeah, if you ended up leasing this for the £400 that we did, then we, you know, you're looking actually at being quids in, saving yourself some money. I think that's actually a really good way to go. The more I think about it as I go across this field, the more I'm actually quite happy that this weeder isn't a silver bullet that gets rid of all the weeds in the field if I use it as soon as I've planted and my crops germinated. It makes you make compromises, which happens all the time in farming. You have to make choices that may not give you the maximum yield, but will give you the maximum cost-effective yield. And I find that really, really realistic. So the fact that I'm sitting here and I'm going, right, okay, so this hasn't cost me a huge amount to do, but it is getting rid of the majority of the weeds, is really cool. I actually really, really like that. And then, you know, if I felt like it later on, I could come along and spot spray, and it would save me money on my spot on the amount of herbicide I used, or you know, leave it and take a slightly lower yield, but expect that the cost it would cost, or the amount it would cost me to increase that yield, would be offset by the amount of getting all the equipment and everything to actually do it. I love that kind of choice, and I love that kind of balance. And this is something that I find over its predecessors, FS22 does very well, is get that balance right of choices, and it's actually a more complex game than any other farm sim that's been out before, because it is that balance, it is that choice of various things that you can do, and there is no real silver bullet to doing it. You've got to make choices that then might do a little bit of what you want, and then you've got to clean up afterwards, or you get a bigger piece of kit later on which costs more, is much more expensive, but does the job all at once. And it's brilliant for that. I actually really, really love it the more I think about it. And yeah, it's really, really cool. Just sitting back here and thinking about how that affects the game, and how the realism aspect for me comes through in that balance. Our last row on this field, and I'm hoping this is going to pick up everything at the edge. It might not. Gonna have to come in a little bit, I think. I was hoping if I ran across the edge we'd get everything. I think we're getting everything except for the medium weeds still. which of course we just can't get with this. We've got a fairly big patch at the end here. This will be telling, and yeah, we got all of that, so that's all good. And there we go. That's all done. Fold that up. One thing I did notice I was doing this field is field 14 here, which is potatoes, is completely ready to harvest. And in fact, if we look in here and have a look at our contracts, field 14, yes, 32,000. Full details though would be 44,000 off that potato contract. And if we paired it with 46 and got the equipment off both, yeah, that would, we'd knock that out fairly quickly. It says 3 hours and 2 hours, so yeah, if we got both sets of equipment and ran it with courseplay harvesters, I know from some comments on the polls that I put out that people aren't too hot on me doing too much with courseplay. I only really do courseplay if I need to get multiple stuff done at the same time. Yeah, that would be a contract that would benefit from that. We could go and do that over the winter, sort of second day of November. So let me know in the comments. Would you like me to take on a potato contract and maybe get that done? Oh, we want to go do field 3, and maybe get that done and get some extra money in. What do you think? We could use some excess for the pigs. Not that we need to, but very much, yeah. I'd like to know. Would you like to see me do some extra stuff with that? It would be the Christmas Eve video that we'd be doing the potato contract. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below. Do you want to see me do the potatoes, or shall we just keep going and get through to the new year and continue with our own farm? I'm not sure about this little area at the top of field 3. It's a little bit annoying. It doesn't quite fit with the rest of the field, and both myself and Courseplay have trouble turning around along that tree line there. I just wonder if it's possible to take everything a little bit closer to the river, maybe on this side. And maybe expand this end of the field a little bit, or alternatively just set this little bit out here to grass so that it's a little bit easier to work, and just have a nice rectangular field down that end. I don't know, it's one of those bits that's a little bit of a chore to do, and I'd quite like to make it a little bit easier on myself. But having said that, you know what? Expanding it out towards the river a little bit wouldn't be a bad idea. I think that I'm not looking to take any trees down. Would just pull it a little bit closer to the tree line, and maybe just add a little bit out there so that it's not quite so thin at this top end and fiddly to work. Because that is the biggest issue with it. Is that you spend more time turning round and lifting and setting down your implement up here than you actually do working it when you get to this point. So yeah, you can see here we're now getting into the really fiddly bit and having to spin round all the time. And I think that there is actually some room for maneuver up this top end here that we can expand and then make the field a little bit bigger, because this is our smallest field on the farm, and we could do with getting a little bit more off it. I mean, this year we've got the wheat in it, and all the wheat from this field will go to feeding the pigs. The stuff from 12B will probably just keep and sell. So yeah, it's a good sized field for that. But of course we can't put the wheat in it every year. So yeah, I'm very much thinking that we could pull it out to about here. So add that much onto it there. Come up to here and add this much onto it at the top here. And yeah, that would add a reasonable amount to the field. Would mean getting a plough, which is also going to mean that we need to get the we need to get a destoner as well, because it'll pull up a whole load of stones. Does mean that we'd need to get the plough, because we'd need to get and mean we'd need to get the stoner as well. So there is that extra hassle that's assigned to it. And we're looking to expand the farm next year. Very much is what the plan is. I want to get more fields. We are still working towards our goal of trying to get everything sort of from this line up here and around this corner here. We've got 148, 68 for field 8, 20,000 for field 9, 96 for field 11, 86 for field 10. So those fields actually really good targets for us for the next year. Field 4 similarly is a big grass field, very thin. Field 7 is much more expensive. Same with 2 and 14 as well, and 13. Yeah, that's quite a lot of money's worth there. So yeah, there's lots that we've got and that we're looking to do. I think we'll put this. Thinking that Amazon is actually fairly useless at the moment. So we'll just plonk this in front of that. We may not ever use that again. Right, and we need to put some fuel in this, because this has started beeping at me. We'll pull over here and refill. Someone was asking me in last night's stream if there's a 2000 or a 3000. Yes, we have. Well, we got the 2000 version of it here. Not the greatest mod in the world, but it does exist. And yeah, just not used anymore. We store it in there in case we do need to get an extra front loader out. But otherwise, we're good. Start the engine up. And yeah, the other job we got to do today is top up the pigs. And that means getting out our little front loader tractor here. So I'll just want to drop this off outside. We don't need the bag lifter at the moment. So we'll drop this outside our shed here. Pop that down there, like so. And then we're going to go and get the front forks. Because basically we're going to load whatever we've got in our gardens today out. The first thing we want to do is any base food, and do that and get them sorted. The other thing we need to do actually is check on the status of the gardens in general. How much seed they have, how much water they have. There's going to be probably a load of work to do in a couple of days for that. They're looking, oh wow. Okay, one garden is looking great, the other is looking dead. So, yeah. I think what we need to do is have a look in here and output anything in here. So let's open the production and... yeah, we have... So in our 2 open air gardens, the corn one is completely out of water, so we need to put more water into that. Our potatoes and sunflowers are doing well, although they are also low on water. So yeah, we need to sort that. The other thing I need to do is we need to output the sunflowers and the potatoes that are in here. So keep going up until we get an odd number. There we go. 8 pallets of potatoes out, and sunflowers is only going to be 2 pallets of sunflowers. Okay. So yeah. Oh, why did it not output the sunflowers? Let's try that again. Should be space for it. Okay. Okay. No, still not output them. I think it must be out of space. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. It's out of space. So we need to get some potatoes out the way. This one here is completely out of water. And, oh wow, we only have 1 pallet of corn to output. So need to do something about that, I think. Thinking about the potatoes, we have more than enough potatoes at the moment to feed the pigs. I only need to put maybe a pallet or 2 in here to actually top them up with those. And we have more than enough coming out of our garden. So I think we're going to stop the potato production. One thing that would happen if we did that contract would be that we would have more than enough potatoes to feed the pigs for a good long while. And we could concentrate our gardens on just doing the sunflowers and the corn. So, yeah, that might be a good way to go for those. I'm only going to remove 2 pallets of potatoes for now. And then we can output those sunflowers. So let's jump in here and output, yep, the 2,000 litres of sunflowers. Like that. Yeah, there they are on the end. So we'll put those in because the pigs are very low on protein at the moment, and that's what the sunflowers give them. And yeah, I think turning the gardens over to one producing sunflowers, the other or one producing sunflowers and corn, and the other producing corn, would be the way to go. If we could have a nice store of potatoes to feed them. So yeah, that contract would probably play very well into the setup of our farm. 2 pallets of sunflowers, and we'll drop them in to our pig feeds. Let's have a look at our pigs. Yeah, they're looking fairly good. I really want to top the rest of this up with the maize if we can. Yeah, more root crops in there we don't really need to do, so let's back this out, and I will go and, well, I think actually time to switch tractors, and we're going to go get some water for our gardens. And I'm back in the 8340 for this because I needed something a little bit faster. I'm sort of scaling back the use of the 7810 a little bit at this point. It's been our longest serving tractor on the farm, but it is a little bit slower than this one, and this will work out quite well. 7810 is still good for us for carting and doing some smaller field work, but yeah, I think a large chunk of the work that we do is going to be taken on by this and the county going forwards. Where we pick the water up is right down here next to field 13. Just back this into the river. I've got a bit of a bump here that I've driven over, but yeah, in general, good place to fill up with water. We'll grab this, and yeah, I think we'll take 2 full tanks. So we'll run this full tank up, come back down here, and then run a second one up to the farm. And that will keep our gardens going for at least a little bit. And we'll then be able to get the production going from those. And as I said, I think I'm going to switch the potato production from, for the second garden over to the corn. Because, yeah, we need to be producing a lot more of that. And we've got way more potatoes than we need at the moment. And back up to the farm with the second trailer of water. We can just back this up to this. Looks like, yep, the corn has already recovered and is growing again. So that's good news. Let's back this up to here and get this emptied. So, yeah, there we go. So that's emptying into there. And yeah, as I said, we want to switch the production on here over to being not potatoes. So we'll deactivate that. We want to set it to corn, so activate that. Eventually, I'm hoping that we should have enough in here of seeds and solid fertilizer for those two to even out. We're then going to start putting manure into these. So then the pigs will be much more self-sufficient with these as well, which will be great. It means that we will not have to worry about putting fertilizer in, and we just need to stick some seeds in every so often, which would be great. I'm also considering getting the automatic watering system and installing that around here. That might work out well for us as well. For now, though, that is all we have to do really on today's farm, on here on Attingham. So I'm going to leave it here, which means that all that remains is for me to say
thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, drop us a comment, and give it a share. Special thanks to all my patrons and channel members. Your support is invaluable in making these videos and helping the channel to grow. For more from Virtual Farmer, check out the links below, follow on Twitch to watch live, and for more videos, subscribe and ring that bell. I will see you next time. Goodbye.